the plant, because that kind of, you're going to have to know the parts of the plant to kind of understand photosynthesis more. So here we all have this. Whoops, I dropped my pencil. Okay. But we all have this diagram. And so we have the flower with the petals and little stigma, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the stem, the leaves, and the roots. And I think we probably, Asher, you will probably at least, maybe Xavier, you might be a little new to this, but you guys might already know what their jobs are. So I'll just kind of go through with a quick review. So the roots, as you probably know, are the part that the plant gets water from.
Hold on, Gwyneth.
Then
just pick one.
The stem.
I didn't even hear what you said.
Guitar or cello?
Guitar.
Okay.
The stem brings the water up to the leaves and the flower, but it also holds up the plant because if the leaves and roots and petals and flower and everything were just floating around, that would really not be good. So the stem also helps to hold up the flower, the plant.
He slumped right on my foot.
Then the leaves are where the glucose or chlorophyll is. I think that's a pretty funny name. Glucose.
Do you remember what glucose is? It's a kind of sugar. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so yeah, glucose is the kind of sugar that it makes. And so that's what it eats, is it actually makes its own food, then it eats its own food. So kind of like we just need the right ingredients and then we can make our own stuff. It's the same way with plants. They just need carbon dioxide, they need sunlight, and they need water. And then they can form their own food. So
Adia, can you tell us the difference between how plants breathe versus how we as people breathe?
So plants don't have lungs. We have lungs. So that's one difference. Plants don't have any lungs. And it's funny because we breathe in oxygen and out carbon dioxide. So right now you're breathing.
Dave, can you take a deep breath in?
Oxygen. So if you breathe in all the oxygen in the air. And then when you breathe out, then you breathe out carbon dioxide, which is what our body makes. It's just all this stuff that we don't want that's in the air. And so we breathe that out. And then, but plants are the exact opposite. They breathe in carbon dioxide, which is what we breathe out, and they breathe out oxygen. So without plants, we'd be dead right now.
So sad.
Happy. Because we need oxygen to live, and without us, all plants would be dead right now as well, because they need carbon dioxide, and we both make that for each other.
And also, if there was no trees in the world, then we would also be dead.
Yes, because
we'd freeze to
they
death.
make most of our oxygen, and then without most of our oxygen, we'd probably die from loss of oxygen. And then, well, that's too bad.
So then if all trees die, you keep a plant with you everywhere.
Just like walking around the grocery store. Don't come too close. You're gonna steal my oxygen.
So let's look at the different parts of the plants. Do you want to show them?
You're welcome.
So maybe you can show them some of the pictures or some of the real
so
plants that we have there.
You kind of have most of these pictures. So, wait. So yeah, there's 3 pictures that we all have, and so they're these 3. So they're photosynthesis, they're plant or part of flower, and then there's the observation. Why are the leaves floating? Why are there just random roots?
Why do you think that is?
That's what I.
because it's showing the parts of the plant.
I know, but
And on that paper, you're supposed to write what each part does.
But like you can't connect the stems.
So, no, because it's showing each separate one. So if you have it together, then it would be confusing because you'd be wondering, well, which part am I supposed to write about in this block?
Whatever.
So, Asher, we read about photosynthesis in our book yesterday. Do you remember what that is?
Photosynthesis is absorbing sunlight to help it get energy.
That's right.
Yeah. So right here I'll have. So here are like some. This is just a growth.
Let's leave the dog
process,
alone right now, Asher.
But I might
okay.
talk about that a little. But so it's just kind of, it starts as a seed, and then one of the first things it does is it sprouts roots, because that is very
Xavier.
important
Let the
that
dog
it
alone.
can get water, because it needs that. That's part of how it makes it food. So the first two things it does is it sprouts roots, which go down, and a little like seedling that goes up. So the roots, the seedling, are opposite directions.
So hopefully we'll see that in our pea seeds that we just planted in
Yeah,
there. Hopefully that's what's
Especially
going to
if you
happen.
look on this side, you can see soon they're going to sprout some roots, which will go down. And they're like weird little zigzaggy things. Then we'll see little seedlings that just kind of pop up. And then eventually they'll grow to the top. And then their leaves will open up and you can get sunlight. So then that's the most important parts. Yeah, at first. And then we'll also to breathe.
Are those ones the ones that are starting to sprout the roots?
That's what we're hoping. We just put them in yesterday, so I don't know if there's roots
They're
yet.
starting to sprout, yeah. It doesn't look like they are.
What did
It looks like it might have a little something coming up there, but I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to tell. Right in there and there. Right in
So one of the things you guys are going to do next, Adi, I'll go through more of the life cycle, but you learned about with photosynthesis that it makes the chlorophyll in the plants, and that's what makes it green. So on the back of one of your papers, we're going to do a chlorophyll rubbing, so you can rub out the green and see what it looks like on your paper.
So, yeah. I guess I can just kind of right now go over photosynthesis.
how do you rub out?
I'll show you in just a second.
Yeah, we'll learn that later. But photosynthesis is when the energy from the sun goes into the leaves, and that heats up the little molecules, or whatever they're called in the plant.
Mm-hmm.
Those
The
little
atoms.
things. It heats them up, and so they start forming glucose, and so they'll let that out, and then the plant will eat the glucose. But then the water mixes, I think, right?
I'm sorry, I was looking at this book. What did you say?
No, probably not. Okay, but yeah, so they breathe in the carbon dioxide, and
Bless you.
let out the oxygen, which we need, as we said, and then we breathe out the carbon dioxide, which they need. So it just kind of circles around.
Asher, wouldn't that be cool? I bet you have some Pokemon guys that are kind of like that. That you have the one that can just soak up the sunlight, and that's how it gets its energy.
Oh yeah, Bulbasaur. So they just relax in the sun, and then that bulb on their back. If they soak in the sun enough, it's technically photosynthesis.
Yeah.
But then they use that. They use that energy, and then that makes the bulb grow into a flower sprout.
Mm-hmm.
And once it does, and when it grows into a flower sprout, that's when it evolves into Ivysaur, and then Ivysaur does the same thing to evolve into Venusaur.
Okay. So, Adi, can you open up one of those tulips for us? That should have some of the parts that maybe the hyacinths and others wouldn't really have, that we could see the stigma that Adi had talked about, the middle part.
So you can see the
anther.
stigma pretty clearly in there.
And would you, Xavier, do you remember why is that part important?
What?
Why is that middle part important that Adi is showing you? Do you remember? There's a little critter that we know that really likes that part.
Bees.
Mm-hmm. And what do the bees do with it? Why do they like it?
Because they pollinate it.
Yeah, they get the pollen off of it.
And then they poop it on your
Because
body.
also this thing.
Well, they make it in. That's pretty much right. Yeah, it's not the most beautiful way to say that, but
But yeah, they would come and they don't even try, but they just try to get the nectar, which is what bees turn into honey. So they'll take that nectar to turn it into honey, and then, but as they do it, as they go in for that nectar, they keep rubbing up against this and all that, and that black stuff, that's pollen. See, when I kept putting my finger in there.
it is good for allergies. Yeah. Well, I don't know that you want to eat it right like that.
Well,
But
like, yeah, if you look, I guess Asher already saw some. But this is when I went in there, on the flower, my fingers kept rubbing up against it, and it gathered the pollen.
so you guys are
bees-
like little bees.
Yeah, the bees get that pollen on them, and then when they go to
You're
the
inside
next
the bee.
flower, then some of that pollen rubs off, and more new pollen gets on. And then they'll go to the next. And the same thing. Some of that old pollen rubs off, and new pollen gets on. And then they'll keep going around.
Isn't that cool?
Now my finger's covered in pollen.
So Asher, there's people that collect the bee pollen. I don't know that just eating pollen from a flower is good for allergies, but they say bee pollen is. So I'm not sure what the bees do to it. Like Adia said, they kind of mix it all up, all the different wildflower pollen. So it's
I got the